football match without fans, is it? And it can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
And to Johnson. Johnson. And a goal by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic.
Champions. That's who we are.
What's happening, guys? What is happening? It's another Tuesday TikTok, Jungle Gyms, and we've got a full house. We'll get the five of us. How yous all doing? Don't all speak at once. And we get the opposite. Yeah. McGinty, got to pick on you first. What are you wearing? For the people who don't have a visual, McGinty appears to be wearing an orange top.
Yes, discuss this, please.
You make that sound a lot worse than it is. This is another one of those Day of the Dead Mexican Charlie shirts. Not that kind of Charlie. Paddy, behave yourself. It's I'll butcher the name of it. It's Pacachuca, or whatever the name is from Mexico. Dakar. No,
Is that not a Pokemon?
Probably, but it looks cool as hell, so I'm going with it. Sevco could only dream of a top this lovely.
Fair dues, mate. Fair. I don't think you're getting away with that one. Very, very brave, man. Don't think you're getting away with it.
Hey, it's the third colour in the Irish tricolour. You know, we'll just go with that.
Bit nice, boy. Bit nice.
Redeemed yourself very well there, sir.
To the viewers, hope you are all doing well. Get your comments coming in. So today's Tuesday, of course, but still, what we're kind of thinking back to the weekend. A glorious game it was. Brilliant. We stopped we ended the mission, stopped the treble, because that's the only thing that they can hope for. It's now going to be season after season of mission to stop the treble, and we're odds on now to win the treble. We've got Cali Thistle 2nd of June.
Do you know what, Gav? Can I just ask a quick question, right, based on that?
Go ahead.
James, you said something on Saturday, or was it Sunday? Sunday, sorry. You mentioned the term Espanolification. What the fuck?
You never heard that? Have you never heard that before?
No.
Basically, Barcelona and Espanyol, and people only know Barcelona. Some people don't even know that Espanyol are from Barcelona, so therefore they've lived that much in the shadows. So now, basically, maybe will know that maybe they'll know they're from Glasgow soon, and they'll be like, do you know what I mean? So basically, it's all to do with that.
All right, I thought it was something to do with Inverness or something, because everybody wants to man.
No, I thought that was common knowledge.
Just pretty much that they're becoming such an irrelevant to us that we're the dominant force, which is true.
You know, the only one thing I could ever tell you about Espanyol is the name Raul Tamudo.
Who's that? He was a former player,
No,
right?
no, do you not remember he was like a top class Spanish striker, and the Rotten Mob were supposed to be buying him back in, I don't know, 2002 or something. In fact, actually, I think he failed a medical or something. They were supposed to be signing him for about $9.5 million. It fell through, so get up, please.
Look, I know we did, or you guys did the podcast after the game. I never got a chance to join in. So I'm not going to ask you all your thoughts on it, but if I was to kind of condense it, James, I'll ask you this question. Now, you said in the group chat in the lead up to it that the Mankey Mob were due a result, but on the other hand, we were due a performance. Did neither one really actually happen? Like, it wasn't like we never gave them a spanking, but of course we showed a different facet to our game, if I was to kind of use that cliche. That's us 5 games this season, and they have failed to lay a glove on us at all. but neither have we been at our scintillating best. I guess that's my question to you. So we weren't brilliant, but we still won the game. Is it kind of came to this where it's just a case of grinding out results against them?
Well, just to kind of lead on for what Paddy was saying, I know the reason I'd mentioned Espanyolification is because to me it kind of feels like this is becoming like a bit of an Edinburgh derby as well, whereas it doesn't seem to matter how bad we turn up, we'll always get the result, the same way we always say like kind of Hearts tend to get the result against Hibs. But see, to be fair, seeing Sunday after the game when I came on here, obviously I'd literally just come in the door and jumped on and hadn't seen anything back at all. See, after watching the game back, I still stand by the second half absolutely dragged in because I think we had like one attack pretty much, but defensively we were comfortable. I mean, they had the chance with obviously the post and then Sakara's sitters in the same move, but out with that, I think they only had one shot and it was a Scott Arfield one that Joe Hart tips round the post. Apart from that, I mean, the one off the line, I'm sure there was maybe 3 or 4 of them offside as the ball comes in, so it wouldn't have counted anyway. But what? I'm saying that. I'm sure there was. I think it might have been 10 of them offside, but I think it was comfortable watching it back. As I say, obviously at the time, it's no nice the no knowing and it did drag in, but watching it back, we were relatively comfortable. And one guy that kind of stood out for me when I watched it back that maybe didn't stand out as much, and I didn't mention him on Sunday, was Maida. The guy was fucking everywhere. I know there was a couple of times he maybe get bumped off the ball, but I mean, you can't make himself any bigger, do you know what I mean? But he ran himself into the ground and defensively, attacking wise as well. I just thought we weren't great, don't get me wrong, but we were solid. Very similar to the 2-1 game at Ibrox last year where Carter Vickers scores. Well, we kind of showed that other side to our game, but all in all, I'll take that. I thought it'd be a close affair. I wasn't buying into the 5-6-0 shouts, but a win's a win in a semi-final. That's all that matters.
See, talking about Maeda, right? Do you think? Obviously, we know he's kind of shortcomings. That right? He's no tricky winger. Sometimes he's technically no very good in the technical sense. Do you think he's probably in line with guys like Paul Hartley and Barry Robson? Like, they guys weren't the greatest players either, but they come in and they made up for it with kind of work ethic and other areas other than being actually really, really good football players.
Aye, he runs himself into the ground. That's his main attribute. Just obviously,
but he's not.
Harry Kewell's been massive, but that is still his main attribute. His work rate.
He's not a winger, but
no.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's a through the middle man, and so he plays where he doesn't play, and he does well, and he does brilliant. He'll chase. As Bertie Oldwan said, he'll chase paper in a windy day. So no, he's
in the sense
impressive.
of kind of like his work ethic rate and stuff, he reminds me of an actually technically talented version of like Kenny Miller. He'll just never stop. He'll keep running. But technically, he's actually got something about him, and he can actually bring up the goods. As Daz says, he's not a winger though, and I've said that for so many months on this podcast now. He's so much more dangerous. It's so much better when he's through the middle. Albeit he came alive on Sunday, went out wide and whipped in one of the best crosses I've seen from somebody on the turn at the time. It was a fantastic cross. But he's so much more dangerous through the middle, so he is. So much more.
I think one thing about Maida, and I totally take on point what you said, that he's not a winger. He isn't a winger, but neither is he good enough to be our centre forward. I see whenever people get annoyed with Maida, I always think be careful what you wish for, because if we were to get rid of him and bring in just a run-of-the-mill winger, we could be losing out a lot of what he brings. You know, it's some of these games, like James, as you said, when you watch it back, you realise exactly how good he was defensively, helping out Taylor at left back. The guy was fantastic, but I think 2 other players who get massive credit are Carl Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Paddy, how important is that partnership? As much flack as Starfelt cops on the cold light of day, the guy loves defending, but him and his brother-in-arms.
That's obviously integral to what we're doing, mate. I think in recent weeks, without kind of knowing the ins and outs of Vickers' injuries and whatnot. I thought Starfelt's been better than Vickers. A few times I saw him actually covering for him as well, but obviously now you know the script. You know what I mean? Vickers is carrying knocks and he's not going to see it the rest of the season. So that, for me, as much as Starfelt gets slaughtered, as much as I've slaughtered him, quite rightfully at times, but you can see that's him stepping up in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Because he's doing everything for the team. But I watched the performance back again last night. I tell you what, Starfelt was really, really good. He was getting into good positions. He was covering the game. He was reading the game well. Very rarely get beaten in physical battles. That's kind of everything that you want for your more ball playing centre back. Because I think that's a good partnership to have. As a guy like Vickers is your physically dominant guy, and you've got another guy there who can be the guy with the quick recovery pace, the guy who can take the ball out for defence and whatnot. So it's obviously a good partnership. It's one there that's a regular partnership. It's one there that's been there for a couple of seasons now, so they're clearly getting more kind of formidable. But as I say, as unfortunate as it is not being able to see Vickers see the rest of the season, I'm looking forward to seeing Kobayashi hopefully coming in. Being a left-footed guy, he'll go to the left-hand side and Starfelt will go back to his natural right-hand side. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing Starfelt playing on the right-hand side to see how really good he is, because for me, he's still massively imbalanced playing on his left-hand side.
Just reading something here about Carter Vickers. It looks like he's out for 3 to 4 months. So that'll take him right into the start of the season. Cameron Carter Vickers is set to miss 3 or 4 months after undergoing knee surgery. A source close to the player confirms this to some news channel, slbsoccer.com.
So you've got full of May, full of June, full of July, full of August. September, I guess we're hoping to bring him back into training. Is he going to go up to speed in time for the Champions League? We don't know. But Paddy, what you're saying about Kobayashi, I think we're looking forward to seeing what he does. And sometimes it takes an injury like this, or someone misses out, but someone gains from that opportunity. McGinty, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to basically say that there, Gavin, that if he's out for 3 to 4 months going into basically the end of the transfer window, isn't it? Then it gives Kobayashi these 5 to 6 games to stake a real claim as a contender for the starting positions ahead of either Starfelt or Carter Vickers in that case. It means when we go into the new season, we've got Kobayashi up and running. What I think it does mean, though, is that we will more than likely, highly likely, go find that extra defender, because I don't think Stephen Welsh is getting a look in anymore. And the likes of Bosun Lawal, I think, is so far down the pecking order, unless we start seeing him show up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to go into the start of the season, albeit no qualifications, but you don't want to be dropping points in the first opening weeks. So we're going to go in, surely we're another centre-back being signed of some ilk.
First Champions League games the 19th and 20th of September. So
That's just brilliant to hear, though, Daz, isn't it? Know that you don't have qualifications, know that you've got all that time. Even last signings coming out on the last day of the transfer window still have 2 to 3 weeks to get up to speed. That's fucking brilliant.
But thinking about the new look defence, I don't know how long Alistair Johnson's out for. So somebody tell me that. But Ralston at right back and Kobayashi coming into the centre back to pair up with Starfelt. You're going to learn a lot about that defence in the next couple of games, with Hearts possibly rejuvenated under Stephen Naismith at the helm, and then going to Ibrox. Well, I know people are saying it's a dead rubber, but that's the only opportunity that they can glean any satisfaction from this season is trying to take points against us at Ibrox. So we're going to learn a lot about Kobayashi. I'm looking forward to it. James, do you have any doubts so far from what you've seen of Kobayashi of how he can acquit himself in that type of environment?
No, I've been impressed with him any time I've seen him, particularly that last game was at the Kilmarnock game he came in, and he looked really good. I'm sure was he playing with Starfelt that game as well, if I just made that up. But
I think that was the Morton game, was it no?
The what game, sorry?
The Morton game in the Cup.
Was it? But no, he's looked good any time he's played. So I'm the same as Paddy, looking forward to seeing a bit more of him now as the season comes to the end.
Mm-hmm. And before we kind of move on from that show semi-final, how impressive was Joe Hart? We'd been speaking a couple of weeks ago about upgrading Joe Hart. He's coming to that age, maybe if we get a better keeper who's good with the ball at his feet, that would complement our passing out from the back. But that was maybe a reminder of that game against the Rotten Mob at the weekend of how good Joe Hart is commanding his box. I thought he looked imperious. Like, punch him when he had to punch, catch him when he had to catch, commanding his area. Nobody got the better of him, and he made a couple of saves as well, diving down to keep out a couple of shots. I thought it was one of his best games in this season anyway. Would them disagree? Aye.
No.
What do you think, though, about upgrading him? I know that there's no sentimentality in football, and even though he put in a great performance,
but he's only 34 as well, isn't he?
36,
34.
isn't it?
Is it 36? Oh, I knew it was so.
Who was it who said in the comments about potentially Barkas going for 4 or 5 million? I can't even believe that's 4 or 5 million. Really, that's 4 or 5 million.
Apparently, he's been brilliant this season, though.
He has.
Brilliant. Because see if we can get back even half of what we paid, I'd be happy. See if we can get back almost everything that we paid for him at 4 or 5 million. That's superb business to get that back. But let's think that he's at the door, and I believe Bain will have 1 year left on his contract, so he's not exactly a long-term future for the club. And Seagrass apparently is out of favour.
I thought he just signed a new deal as well.
I thought it was just like an extension.
Is Seagrass back for his injury?
A couple of months apparently, and he's not getting looking. Bain's been on the bench while Seagrass has been absolutely fit apparently.
Apparently,
so
the rumours.
You've got to assume there's something going on behind the scenes, Paddy.
Apparently, the rumours behind the scene, won't mention names or anything, but apparently, Seagrass hasn't been the best behaved.
Tell us more, Paddy.
Yeah, he just really get podcasts into trouble there. No, if Barkas is away for 4 or 5 million, that's superb to know. If Seagrass is not in favour for whatever reason, dirty deeds or not, then he'll be shown the door as well. Angie's not going to care too much about sentimentality or put up with any nonsense. That leaves just Joe Hart and young Toby, really, because Bain, just let's not talk about it. We're probably likely to sign another goalkeeper as well then. So centre back and a goalkeeper in the summer.
I hope that if Barkas has been doing as well as what we're led to believe, that I would hope that Utrecht aren't just pleading poverty for the sake of it, because I would like them to stump up the money that we deserve for Barkas. And saying that, I think he's only got 1 year remaining in his contract, but historically we've been good to squeeze every penny out of these outgoing transfers. If you look at even like Ryan Christie, for example, you know what I mean, that we got like about 2 million for him, even though he had 6 months left. That's magic, man. So magic. So I hope that we managed to get what we're owed for Barkas. Fuck knows what we're going to get for a Jetty. That's a different kettle of fish entirely. So the game itself, Hatate, I felt Hatate was. I was relieved when I saw him on the team sheet, but I guess in hindsight we could all say that he wasn't really firing in all cylinders. But he never made any costly mistakes. And Moy, whenever he came on, I thought Moy was actually really good. The fact that he's so streetwise, I thought it was really to our benefit.
Moy for me, again, when he came on, I was sitting at the corner flag towards the tunnel side, the other side. So I was sitting, now as a Celtic end, I was at the right-hand side of the goals. And I felt like Moy was just putting everything down that wing and chasing it. And I thought he was absolutely superb when he came on. He done everything. He won the ball and then he bought us a couple of minutes. Do you know what I mean? So especially going into the last 10 minutes, a couple of minutes, you know what I mean, here and a couple of minutes there, he's aimless chance to a sniff to get back into it. So he done really well when he came on.
see when I saw Anthony Ralston come on, and I thought Ralston acquitted himself very, very well for Johnson. I think we were all gutted whenever we saw Johnson go off. But this is like the only negative thing I'll say, and it's nothing to do with Ralston. You know who I would get the fear coming on to be a replacement? Bernabe. I think I'm going to put my stall out right now and just say, don't trust the boy. Don't trust him.
Agreed.
Yeah. Maybe that's not justified. Maybe it's just a hunch. I think it's just a hunch. I don't trust him. I wouldn't have trusted him if he did come on. But thankfully, he didn't have to come on. And I thought Taylor did very well as well. So I guess moving on for that, it's been a fantastic weekend, boys. I guess the banter's been good. Come back at work.
Very.
I've not seen anyone. I've not really seen anybody. I've not, and then even in the group chat that I'm in, there's a few Rangers fans in the group chat that I'm in, and I was trying to get a rise out of them, and then I get nothing. I actually felt ignored, and I wasn't liking it.
Well, I had the utmost pleasure of being stuck in a van in a 2-hour drive with two of them. It was fucking magic. Absolutely magic. Even you see a grown man pretending to go to sleep because he doesn't want to hear about his demons. He can't beat it.
It's strange days whenever we've pounded them into submission that they don't even have a comeback. You know what I mean? They're not even taking the bait anymore. And I guess Mick Beale never had any excuses. I can't remember if he had anything. He couldn't complain about the referee. He couldn't complain about selections. He couldn't complain about the pitch. He couldn't complain about fuck all, apart from the hand that he's been dealt with. But they'll be looking to rebuild in the summer. But of course, we will as well.
It's the hand that he's been dealt with, right? So you look at the other two hands it's been dealt, and I know this has been well documented and brought up by others, but you look at the other hands it's been dealt to Barry Robson and your man Kettlebell or whatever isn't Kettlewell. Do you know what I mean? They've come round with this. They've come round and turned our two teams around. Do you know what I mean? And absolutely, well, Barry Robson, they're the most informed team in Scotland, aren't they? So. Michael Beale, he's a car salesman, a glorified car salesman.
See the notion as well that this isn't his team and he doesn't know the players. I get it's not his team in the sense that he's not signed them. It's pretty much the same team that he would have had when Gerrard was there as well. So he knows that team inside out, and he knows obviously what they can and what they can't do. And it's not even as if he's tried the same thing against us. He's tried to kick us up and down the park. He's tried to press us high, and it just is working for him. And the players that are linked to, I seen they were linked to, his name's just not in my head, Kieran Dowell. But I'm sure he's been injured. He's been injured pretty much for the last kind of the full season, more or less, as far as I know. So, I mean, it doesn't really. It seems to be all players that's out of contract on freeze and all that. So they keep saying about this. We only need 4 or 5 players, and if they sign 4 or 5, I dare say we'll do the same, and we're in that position now where we've got 2 seasons worth of Champions League money. We don't need to sell Andy, but if we did sell Andy, we've got loads of players that we can sell for good money. They don't have any of that. I mean, you look through their squad, you'd probably be lucky if you get 3 million for any of them.
Well, they're obviously going to lose out on their biggest assets. Being obviously the wee guy with the biggest arse, Morelos, the Goth, Ryan Kent. You know what I mean? They're not getting a penny for these guys. These guys are going to be running away for free at the end of the season. Whereas if you flip it to your side, we're on the road of success, right? We've been there last season. We've done it again this season. This season's promising on paper to be even better than last season. If we can win a domestic treble, that is quite an exceptional feat for Ange. He's going to be doing in the history books. But if you look at it off the park as well, James, exactly what we're talking about. You know, we've got the assets there. We've got Champions League money coming in. We're flinging merchandise out the door for fucking plenty of money. Look at the thing with the Adidas shoes. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And then you're talking about the Japan tour coming up. which has been announced today. I think we all knew it was coming, but it's been officially announced by Celtic today that we're going to be travelling to Japan for a tour in July, I think. So all these things are all going to factor in, and I've personally been told that we're very, very close to 3 signings.
Can I ask you this, guys? And McGinty, I'll come to yourself for this one. The importance of strengthening when you're on top. Now, I think it's a Celtic failing that we have not strengthened when we are on top. I don't need to remind you about when we were chasing for the 10 in a row, how we made the wrong decisions, and we know how that ended up. So the importance of strengthening, we know that they're going to do it. Now, a lot of people are saying how they're going to get the funds, but I don't think we should be looking at them and saying, well, they don't have the funds, so they're not going to strengthen. We should be taking care of our business. We shouldn't be looking over our shoulder to see to how much extent shall we strengthen by. So taking into account past mistakes, taking into account where we are right now and how better we want to get, what's your expectations? What do you think will really happen? We know what we want to happen, but what do you think will really happen?
So I'll jump off the bat from what you're saying here. Do you think our board would trust Ange? I think, does Ange trust our board to give him the money is the bigger question, because the guy in charge, and I don't want to turn this into a Peter Lawwell bash, but the guy in charge is Peter Lawwell, who's been around the block quite a few times. And if you want to keep going back as far as you can, just know in recent memory of when we've been in a position of strength, when we should have strengthened further and pushed ourselves on, go back to 2003, 2004. After the Seville run, we should have backed that team. I know we had to bring in the wage budget a little bit. We had to restrict stuff, but we should have still pushed within that restriction. We should have still pushed a bit more than what we did. We were far too content on just downsizing as quickly as possible, shoving Bobo Baldi out the door as quick as you can, who didn't want to leave. So what did? We just bumped him down to the reserves. We didn't even want to play him. That was basically the worst, stupidest thing we ever did, was just try and shove people at the door and get that wage bill down. Let's hope that we're not going to do that. And I think this is the summer that if we do this properly, we'll get people like me off the board's back a lot more than anything in the last 18 months to 2 years since the unfortunate events of like Neil Lennon's last season. Where we are, and again, I've said this so many times as well, we need to start looking at ourselves as one of the worst teams in Champions League and European football. And we need to start building ourselves up that ladder and that tier. Stop thinking about, we're at the top of the SPFL domestic scene, we'll do enough to see us through here or enough just to be better than them. We need to progressively get ourselves better for Europe. And once that keeps coming, we'll just automatically, almost by default, run right over the domestic scene. Yeah, forget if he doesn't back signs, he's basically putting his son on. Well, I know Paddy said that a few times as well, but I think that can flip the other way. I want to buy into that. I want to believe he's going to support his son. He wants to see his son do well. He wants to give him a good CV and all the rest of it. But the other way could be the same. Could the son be happy enough to nod along and go, yes, Daddy, whatever you say, Daddy?
I would like to think that Mark Lawwell's got enough clout that he's not just there because of who his daddy is, though. Do you know what I mean?
You would like to agree, and I would like to.
I don't see why. I don't see why you would. I totally get why you've got the pessimism about us going forward because of what's happened in the past, right? But see, if you look at last season, right, and you look at this season, all that we've done is strengthen. He's been good plenty. He's not been told, right, you're not getting this guy and that guy. I think the only person we ever failed to get was the guy Sousa. I think.
Yeah.
That's one player. Do you know what I mean? Every single player that he's got.
Exactly.
The wee boy that went to Middlesbrough.
Yeah. Well, but that wasn't even our fault. I think all of us can turn around and say, well, he chose them over us. That's his choice.
And I bet he regrets that.
More likely, but we had O'Reilly lined up as a fullback, and that's not a bad backup plan to McGree. And I think we'd all agree it's a better option.
Just to quote another quote, but this time it's Sir Alex, is you always fix your roof in the summer. You know what I mean? So basically don't wait until it's leaking before you start fixing. That means so fix and keep ahead of it. So I'm hoping now, and for what I've seen now, Celtic has been more proactive other than reactive, especially under Ange. And none of us in our wildest dreams could have predicted when Ange came in how it was going to be. But my God,
Does. I don't want this to sound like a backtrack. I'm going to still say that I'm hoping that this summer window is the one that gets me to firmly go, right, we've turned that corner. It's not just a little blip. It's not just the new manager will give you a bit of a backing. So far, it's all been good. So far, it's all been positive. And I think if we do it this season, the position of strength that we speculate to accumulate ambition and all that, see if we do it properly this season, this will be me hands up saying we're doing football right. We're doing this proper.
I don't think we're the type of club who can bring in Champions League ready or Champions League proven players. We don't have the budget for that. I think there is another way. Like if you look at the Brighton model, what Brighton are doing right now in English football, they're just very, very smart. They're looking at football a different way than the kind of the cliched approach. And I think we just need to kind of, I know another cliche is modernise, but we need to be doing things that the other clubs are not doing, and that's how we're going to get ahead in the Champions League. The other thing is with Postecoglou, we've seen the biggest rebuild in quite a number of years with Celtic just 2 years ago, whenever he took the helm. And I hate to say it, but at the same time, it's a good thing about Postecoglou. Postecoglou will leave us if he notices that the board are slacking, that they don't have the same ambition that he's got. He's not going to ask for a 50 million war chest, but he'll ask something that's reasonable to kind of scale up the ambitions. And if the board don't back that, then Postecoglou will be gone, and we won't blame him. We'll probably say, mate, you've done everything we would have wanted you to do. You've represented the club brilliantly. You had proper, substantial ambition, and if the board don't feel to back him, then he'll be off ski. He will.
And you know what, Gav? You're spot on there, and there's absolutely zero excuses for the board to be kind of lowballing them or whatnot, because we're going to be we're looking at record turnovers. You know what I mean? And Ange is a part of that. So he's, as far as I'm concerned, last season and this season, he's been heavily backed. He's been very well backed. And I think if you look at the model that Michael Nicholson's kind of looking at now, because let's remember, he's the fucking main man under Dermot Desmond now. As much as Lawwell still got a certain aft of control. But I might be wrong here, but I think Michael Nicholson's got a financial background as well. So surely to God, he's kind of one of these guys that says, well, you need to speculate to accumulate, you know. So if you look at it back to the very first transfer, and it was Kyogo, you know, I mean, that was a big marker. But if he never worked out, then I don't think that the board would have backed him by saying, do you know what, listen, and excuse me, and says, I want another 3 guys for Japan. But if Kyogo was shite, then there could have been reservations. Could you say, well, listen, we've got a guy into the G League and it's not very good. Well, it's worked. So surely that puts faith from the board into the manager. The only thing that I've ever said that's still kind of playing on my head, because I know that the board have got financial obligations, they've got to look at things and whatnot. I think for a financial aspect, I think that the board will at some point be looking to see a financial return on some of the players that Ange has brought in, i.e. a player that Ange has signed himself. The board won't be wanting to think that they're just spending all that money and they're not going to get anything back for some players.
But signing all the players that we've signed has got us the money in the bank that we're getting in and the record turnover. So the return,
I know that's where it needs to balance it somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And that's where the board can't then just jump in and say, right, well, we're not keen yet because we're getting the return and you've done well.
That's the return.
See just what you're saying with the board, right? Let's see. I know it's different. It's all the same faces, but they've got different titles now. So you just obviously hope that they've learned from the past. I think it's pretty similar, maybe not exactly the same, but kind of similar when Rodgers left, in the sense that Rodgers was wanting to bring in I know we're all just kind of theorising this, but Rodgers was wanting to bring in your Castagnas, James Justins, yada, 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 and kick on to that next level. He'd already done it with the team that was there and maybe a few kind of couple of £1 million players. And it got them into the Champions League, banked the money. We had player sale money there as well, but the board wasn't willing to take that next step. It feels to me as if we're there again, but the board, you would imagine, would be more willing this time. As McGinty says, obviously the next one day will be massive, but you'd imagine that the money's there. Obviously, you'd imagine we're pretty nailed on for a treble, and we are going to take that next step this time. And obviously, it's exciting times to be a Celtic supporter to see what's going to happen in the future. I was listening to that PLZ Soccer earlier, I must admit, when I finished, and it was Tam Cowan was on it. I actually don't mind Tam Cowan, but he was talking pish, and they were talking about the Champions League, and Celtic will never compete in the Champions League, they'll never be able to do it. And Peter Martin was saying, but they've done it in the past, and they've never spent, we're not going to go out and spend £30 million on a striker that's going to come in and buy 6 goals in the group stages or whatever. Of course, that's not what's going to happen. But there's no, we've seen Postecoglou's come in, and most of these signings have been 2, 3, maybe 4 million at a push for the majority of them. Guys like Joe Hart coming in a free and things like that. And look at the difference he's made today. Not so much Hart, obviously, was tried and tested, but the rest of the team, like the difference he's made. Guys like Greg Taylor, Tony Ralston, in 2 years, the difference that he's made to them. So just think, what if we go out and sign a player for 7 million? Just think how good it could make them, kind of starting for a higher baseline. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at. I feel as if we're at that same stage where we need to trust the board to take the next step, and instead of going £3-4 million, go 70 and have a good go at Europe.
I think there's a point that Gavin made a moment back there about signing Champions League ready players, and this gets mentioned on the Clyde phone-ins and all the rest of it as well, and the bigger media outlets kind of always pipe on, no, Celtic can't afford to buy Champions League ready players. I think a lot of people make the confusing mistake, which Gavin actually corrected himself on quite rightly. We're not asking this 20-25 million on a Champions League player who's playing in the Champions League. We're asking the club to go out and spend £4-5-6 million on a player capable of playing in the Champions League. You're Juranovic for a key example, or as Ange Postecoglou's been doing the last 2 years, and we've alluded to quite strongly there as well, James. Go to Japan, go to Korea, go to wherever it is, and feed into markets where you can still buy players for £2-3 million, absolute bargains, who don't look out of place in the Champions League group stage. Kyogo is, for all intents and purposes, in my eyes, a Champions League level player. He's not quite shown it as yet. I know that sounds a bit kind of stupid, but he's of that caliber that he is that good that he will. I know he will produce it when we get there again. And you have to hope that the club knows that that's where the money's going to come from in the future when we sell some of these players off. Angie's only been here 18 months, not even 2 years. The players he's signing aren't ready realistically to be moved on yet. O'Reilly might move on in the summer and he'll make his money. Somebody else might move on in the summer and make his money. The fact that Juranovic and Giakoumakis left in January was a bit too sudden for everybody, but we're not missing them because the rest of the talent is coming in and working so. I generally reckon that Ange has this covered. If he keeps shopping in these lesser known markets, he'll unearth gem after gem after gem who are Champions League ready, but also not Champions League players. So and the board. Just one last thing, guys. Sorry, I'll mute my mic because I'm aware of the noise in the background. The board at this point, I think, the last time, 2 things are different. 1, lessons learnt from Rodgers when we should have pushed the ball out, and 2, automatic Champions League qualification. The fact we're making record money this season, same as we did under Rodgers before, but we're guaranteed so much more money next season. I think they actually will push it out. I hate to hear myself saying it. I'm on board with the board. I think they're going to do the right thing here.
See, just to go back to, I think it was one of Frank's comments he was saying about the 8 to 10 million no guaranteeing you, and 100% agree with that. Paying £10 million for a player doesn't automatically mean they're going to be a great player, but that for me is where it comes down to trusting the manager a bit more. I mean, you look at the his two most expensive signings that he's brought in is Jota and Carter Vickers. And fair dues, they were on loan initially, but we still paid the 7 million or whatever to get them in. And I'm no by any stretch saying that they set the Champions League on fire in the group stages last year. But if we were to sell them the Mora, you're still going to turn a massive profit. So they don't necessarily need to come in and tear the Champions League up. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's really expecting that. But they can still come in. It'll probably give you Mary a chance, admittedly. But then if the history will show, and as I say, don't trust in the manager, you're not going to lose anything on them.
So obviously, like, the Champions League is a big thing, and that's in everybody's mind. And by the way, my memories of last year's Champions League are no bad. When you think about it, we gave Real Madrid, we gave Real Madrid a fright at Celtic Park. It was 2 stupid penalties in the Bernabeu, and then missing a penalty. You know what I mean? So that score flattered them. The other 2 games, we should have won in Donetsk. We should have beat Donetsk at Celtic Park, but we didn't. So a lot of naivety in the first season for Celtic there. So last season's Champions League, all right, the points doesn't reflect how the effort was. So for next season, all I'm looking for Celtic to do is capitalise on the effort that they put in. And if we do that, then what I'll consider success is finishing third and dropping to the Europa, or possibly second, or the last 16. Do you know what I mean? I'll consider last 16 or third as a success.
I was listening, Daz, to the Spanish football podcast with a couple of guys who do like La Liga commentary and ESPN commentary, and they made a nice point about Sevilla, who are having an absolute turgid of a season. We're battling relegation for such a long period of the season, along with Valencia. Sevilla now look to probably be comfortable in mid-table, potentially sneak a European spot. However, they made a good point about the size of Sevilla and the type of club they are and where they fall into the European bracket, that they're maybe not quite good enough to go deep into the Champions League. And Celtic are so far removed from that, obviously. But Sevilla have got the Europa League tied down. That's their jam, and they are primed for winning that this year, as they have done so many years in the kind of decade or so, that they've kind of found that level. And see, if you look at where Celtic are, finish third in a good Champions League group stage, show yourselves well, finish third, drop down to the Europa. Let's go deep there. The Huns have proven that a bit of luck and a bit of luck and a sacrificing of goals will get you to a final if you really wanted to. And Sevilla can show you that you don't need to be a Champions League level team to actually be a great success in European competitions these days. And that's where I'm at. Show ourselves up well in the Champions League. Don't embarrass ourselves. Don't have to. And let's go deep into Europa. Because if they can get to the final, we can bloody well win it if we get a little bit of luck our way.
I'm sorry, mate. I can't possibly agree with that at all.
You don't agree that we could win a European Cup? Not the Champions League, but you don't agree we could win one of them?
No, what I'm saying is, why are we talking about Europa? Europa is a level under the Champions League, right? We're going to be getting into the Champions League. We do not want to be thinking about Europa League, because the Europa League is a safety blanket. It's second class to the Champions League, right? See, if we want to elevate as a club, excuse me, I've got a right fucking sore throat. If we want to elevate as a club, we need to be playing in that top competition. Right, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that at all. It would be fantastic to go on a Europa League run. It'd be fantastic to get to a final. It would be, but at the same time, that's still the second-tier competition. Do you know what I mean? We want to be getting into the Champions League. We want to be given every single fibre a fucking passion.
Obviously,
we do, Paddy, but you have to be realistic.
No. What I'm saying is, like, that should be your sole focus. That should be your aim, right? And I'm going to bring up 2 comments here because it ties in with stuff that we've spoken about before, right? So, Charles Smith says 40+ shots in the Champions League, only need to turn a few into goals this time. And Celtic says you need to remember a lot of our boys didn't have Champions League experience. They will be stronger with a few experienced players in the team, and it's spot on. That's something I've said. That's something McGinty said. Gav.
Well, son, I just said it the other day.
I was getting on the table there. I was getting to you. getting to you. That's exactly what's happening. There's players come in, haven't played in Europe. There's a manager that's come in, hasn't managed in Europe. It's all gradually getting better. It's gradually getting more experience as we go. So see the performance that we saw in the Champions League this season. Sorry, we were a few moments away from getting some great results. It was just about lacked a wee bit of clinical finishing and stuff like that. Lacked a bit of experience, possibly Ange lacked a wee bit of experience with tactics by no showing up defensively at points. But he did better in the Champions League than what he did in the Europa. Do you know what I mean? So everything is progression. So see when it gets to the Champions League next season, we would be looking to at least get a couple of wins and be trying to fight at the very least third spot, regardless of who's in the league, regardless of who's there. And it's only going to take a couple of players to add into their squad to make us better.
I think
what we're saying, Paddy, though.
Ideals above our station, to be honest with you.
What's the point in getting into the Champions League?
But nobody's saying you don't want to get in it, though. But if you, obviously you want to be there. A lot of it depends on the draw. Look, see me this year, everybody was talking about taking second half Leipzig. I would have been more than happy. I would have been delighted with third place. I even said that before a ball was kicked in the Champions League. And I know everybody keeps saying, oh, we played really well against Real Madrid. The Shakhtar Donetsk away game, how we didn't win that, I still don't know to this day. But at the end of the day, Real Madrid scudded us 3-0 and they taught us a lesson in the Bernabeu. We didn't take anything. So it's a hard luck story. Our level, for me, I know we'll go into the Champions League unless we get a favourable draw. Pot one's going to be Man City, Real Madrid, whoever. Realistically, you're going to be looking at taking 0 points after that team anyway. The second pot team is massive. If you go in, I don't know what the pots are. Say Liverpool. If we go to Liverpool, sign me up for third now. If we go maybe a Leipzig again or a Benfica or whatever, as I say, I don't know what the pots would be, then I have a go at second. But I just think we're getting ideas above our station now. But it has been a great season. But and I know we maybe put in some good performances in the Champions League. But at the end of the day, fucking points make prizes, and we didn't really do enough in the Champions League. As I say, everybody keeps romanticising the Real Madrid game. I think they forget we get scudded 3-0, and I know we played well, and I know we hit the post, but that is the difference in level, and you don't.
Jota scored.
We're going to get to. No, I'm talking about the home game, but I mean, I'm not saying we're going to get to Real Madrid's level, but even Leipzig, you're not going to bridge that gap in a year. So 100% agree with McGinty. Go into the Champions League, take third place. Bearing in mind we've no even won a knockout tournament, won a knockout game since 2004 or something, and we're talking about getting to finals and all that. I think we need a wee downer, man, to kind of come back to reality a wee bit. I know it's been a good season, but fucking hell, man.
Too much my part.
Sorry, mate. Just let me jump in for 2 seconds here. Answer back, fucking rank the fucking negative bastards of you. Ange doesn't lack any experience in any way, shape, or form. How does he know? He's never managed in Europe before until he came to Celtic, so he lacks fucking experience of managing in the Champions League. So shut up.
If you said that to Postecoglou, he would rebuff that. He'd say, "Well, he's managed in the World Cup."
The World Cup's not the Champions League.
My main point is for me, domestic football is our bread and butter. So if we're cleaning up there, I can forgive. If we're cleaning up domestically like we have been doing for the past 20 years. Then I can forgive anything that goes on in Europe. If we get a good result, brilliant. If we get a negative result, then it's a lesson. Do you know what I mean? For me, bread and butter is domestic, and I get a lot of stick for this, for having this point of view. But for me, the Champions League is just glorified friendlies. You know what I mean? Because we'll know that level. It'd be great to do it, but I don't beat myself up if we get beat. You know what I mean? The way I would do in a domestic game.
See, Paddy, can I just say? Can I say one thing? And it's not to agree or disagree with anyone here, but see, kind of climbing that ladder in terms of quality, us getting better and better as a team, going from maybe Europa League level to Champions League level. I think it's far easier to do that in a league where you've got a competitive edge, like in England, Germany, Italy, etc., France, maybe to an extent, perhaps not, but certainly the previous countries that I mentioned, in Scotland, the odds are stacked against us. And I don't mean to sound like, we should be perennially pessimistic. It's just harder to do it in this environment compared to other countries where it's more competitive and you can gradually get better and better and better. That was just my penny's worth.
See what you're saying, Daz, right? I get what you're saying, mate, right? But I'm not trying to sound like a wank here at all, right? But I just think, see if you think about it, right, on a basic level, right? We're trying to progress as a club, right? So how do we progress as a club? We get in better players, probably, right? At a base level, we want to get better players in. So if you want to get better players in, you need to look at a better quality of market, right? But you need to be attractive to these players. Let's be honest, playing in the SPL, it's not going to be attractive to everybody, right? You'll get your outcasts like Joe Hart, you'll get guys like Carter Vickers who aren't getting play for Spurs, this and that. But you need to keep going up a level. And Celtic getting automatic entry into the Champions League opens up your shop window a bit more. You can go and shop in fucking nicer places, right? You might not be able to get anything, but you've still got the options of going looking. See if you go and then perform even better in the Champions League the next season, and you show that you can actually do something against these clubs, then guess what? You're opening up your market again. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. We should always... I just think, see, when people say, Europa League, and I'm not having a go at anybody here, right? I think when you say Europa League, when we've no even went into the Champions League, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for second best there and then. I don't think that should be our mentality at all. We've won the league, right? We've guaranteed that we deserve to be in the Champions League. We're not winning the league to guarantee that we're getting parked out the Champions League. We're in there on merit, so we should be fucking aiming for top. I don't care what anybody says. There's 4 places in a group stage. We should be aiming to be the best in our own country, and we should be aiming to be the best in any competition that we're playing in. And that includes going for fucking first place.
See, to be fair there, Paddy, is one of my best pals always tells me, now all through growing up, and he always gives a bit of advice, was always aim for the top, because if you fail at the top, you'll not be too far behind. So I kind of have to agree with you there.
I totally get, right? If you're coming up against teams like Real Madrid and Liverpool and this and that, blah, 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 blah. I get they're going out and spending 200 million on a player, 100 million, whatever it is, fucking Shakhtar get 80 million for Mudryk. But what's the difference between now and back to the days when we were qualifying and beating teams like AC Milan with guys like fucking Paul Telfer? The only thing that's changed there is the actual amount of money that's been spent on a player. If you look back at teams like that, AC Milan were still spending multi-million pounds on guys like Kaká and fucking Zaghi or fucking whoever it might be. It's just now that the financials are even more forward. Would you say that some of the players in the championship, right, that's gone for 30, 40, 50 million pounds is any better than guys that were going for like 3 and 4, 5 million a couple of years ago? Do you know what I mean? The only thing that's changed is the fucking level of money that's been pumped into these players. And I get that we're not going to go out and spend 10 million pound on a striker, 12 million pound, but everything's starting to... We've started to receive like 20 million pound plus for players now. So we're getting in more than what we used to. It used to be a fact that we'd never ever sold a guy for 10 million pound. That broke the mold when guys like Forster and Wanyama and that. Do you know what I mean? But money's no everything. It's all about the right player, the right team, the right mentality, the right fucking amount of experience. And we're going to now be going into the Champions League twice in the trot. Brings in experience. If we can just tweak out the mistakes, if we can be a bit more clinical, then we've got a chance. Nobody says that we could beat Real Madrid, right? I thought we could beat Real Madrid because I fucking went into that with total positivity because Ange put that in place. Real Madrid had to raise their levels to like the elite Champions League levels to beat us. That's how good that we can be. It's just that our inexperience and a couple of negatives let us down. We need to continue to raise it to that level. Like Shakhtar, who mentioned Shakhtar? I think it was you, Daz. We should have beat them. We should have beat them, mate. But then look at it, if I talk about money, they had a guy playing for them that fucking went and signed, sold for 80 million. Do you know what I mean? Money's not everything.
But does that not just go to show you that it is, though? I mean, like, do you know how? Mate, I fully agree with what you said, and it's a conversation I've had with my mates before. Exactly what you've said about Celtic qualifying for like the last 16. We've done it 3 times, so it's not as if it's like, well, I suppose it is out the normal, but it's not as if it's something that we can't do or something that we haven't done before. But do you know, just think that FIBA has changed so much in the last few years? I mean, you've got teams like fucking City, Real Madrid, PSG. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters of FIBA. You used to have like AC Milan had Kaká and a cracking defence. Don't get me wrong, never had bad players surrounding them, but there was nobody that would make that a world 11. Do you know what I mean? But these players are these teams are fully them, and I think that even results show you that. I don't even think it's just like in my head saying that with transfer fees floating about. Easy for me to say, but like back a few years ago, like you're saying, guys like Paul Telfer, and I'd go to the game with AC Milan, Man United, fucking whoever, Shakhtar Donetsk. You're expecting to beat them. AC Milan in the last 16 took them to extra time. You went into these games with confidence. Look at our results in Europe since then. When was the last time we won a game in the Champions League, won a home game in the Champions League? Do you know what I mean? Fitbit, for me, has just changed so much over such a short period of time where, of course, it makes it harder. It definitely isn't impossible. But whereas we used to, look, I mean, 10 years ago, if we drew Real Madrid at home, I'd say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, drew Real Madrid at home, right, hopefully we can sneak a 1-0 or a 2-1. And we played well against them. We played well and get bet 3-0. So what does that matter? Do you know what I mean? You don't get in for getting bet 3-0.
But do you know think that 3-0 defeat, right? See if you've got a manager who's savvy enough. I know at the time it's no great being scored 3-0 on paper, right? But do you not think that if you're thinking forward to next season or the season after, that these 3-0 defeats could be a learning curve?
100%.
I totally get about the money and all that, but I just hark back to like Lennon's team that qualified for the last 16. Who was playing in their teams? There was guys like fucking Kelvin Wilson and Effie Ambrose. You know what I mean? They hardly cost anything. Fraser Forster was fucking £2 million a Newcastle fucking outcast. You know what I mean? And they were beating guys above their station. So see if that's kind of the barometer you judge things on, then surely like nobody's going to beat a Man City, nobody's going to beat a PSG if they've spent less than them. So I mean, money's no the whole. I get money it allows you to bring in a better quality of player. It brings in blah 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 blah. You know the script, but you should. I just don't think you should be approaching games by saying right they've spent.
No, of course not.
Million. They've no chance. You know what I mean?
And see when the draw gets made. I think we could draw fucking Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Man City, and Postecoglou and still be that right. We want to win this group. We want to qualify. Of course, he's a manager. That's his job, and I genuinely think that he would believe that. But as a supporters, do you know what I mean? We're maybe a wee bit more realistic and thinking, nah, it's not going to happen. Don't get me wrong. What you've said there about progression as well, I agree with you. And if hypothetically, if we went into the Champions League next season and drew the exact same group as we had this season, then I think we'd be nailed on for third, pushing Leipzig all the way for second. And that is the progression. But for me, this season was I know we had Real Madrid, but the other two teams was a favourable draw. It might not be like that next year. We might get Real Madrid and Liverpool, Real Madrid and fucking whoever else is in pot two. I don't know. But in that scenario, then I'd take your horn off for third right away. It's become the Champions League for me is essentially a closed shop these days. You need to have very, very kind of lucky, maybe the right expression because obviously we won the league, but it is very much a closed shop.
But do you not think that Celtic's problem is the fact that we don't qualify year in, year out for the Champions League? It's always been the problem because if you think about it, right, you're playing at that level every week, right? Mm-hmm. And then you've got to go to there you're no good enough to do that like one season out of fucking 5 seasons, whatever. Right? But see if you're there, if you've made that jump there, then at least you know what you're kind of getting into. The group of players kind of know what they're going to be facing. They know that they're going to have to up their game, raise their levels, be faster, be stronger, be fitter, be more composed, more concentration, be more clinical. All these experiences add up, and that's why it was brilliant for us getting the automatic qualification for this season, because as we all know, the qualifiers are a fucking joke. Having to play 4 qualifiers when you've won your league is a shambles. If you win your league, fucking groups. I mean,
do we not get to a point where we are, if we've played in the qualifiers and then in the qualifiers, then in the we get to the group stages, then we've played like 3 games more than what the eventual winners normally do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's not even just the amount of games. Sometimes you're having to fucking fly to fucking Kazakhstan for a qualifier. You know what I mean? If you win your league and your league is you're able to qualify for the Champions League from your league. If you win your league, you should be fucking straight in.
Let me ask you a question.
That's when I agree with you, James, about it being a close show. 100%.
Just hypothetically, would you rather a Champions League quarter final or win the Europa League?
The latter, 100%. The latter.
Quarter final.
The latter's.
See, let me rephrase that then. For you guys, would you rather a Champions League quarter final or win the Conference League?
The latter. The latter's a trophy.
I'm a trophy.
Let me ask you this question. Would you rather get close enough to fucking Naomi Campbell and Aussie end up as a smelly one of her farts, or would you rather shag Sharon for in the corner? Aim for the stars, mate. Aim for the stars.
You've not seen Sharon round the corner, to be fair.
Aim for the stars, mate. You might just get by the fart one night. You might just catch her off guard, and she might end up. You might end up in a lynch. You know what I mean? But here, listen. If you've got to go back to Sharon in the corner, then it's acceptable. It's acceptable, but it's no what you set out for that night, was it? You're setting out for a 10, and you're ending up with a 4.
Listen,
it's still a good night. Still a good night.
Paddy, shut it.
Time for dinner.
No. See the thing is, though, right? What you say there. If you win the Europa League, then you're guaranteed into the Champions League next season again. Do you know what I mean? So that means there's no qualifications. So I don't know if next season we might have to negotiate a qualifier if we win the league. But if you win if the ideal situation is right, if we come third in in the Champions League, drop down to Europa, and then the luck's on our side, and we get all the way to the final and manage to win it. And I know it's all hypothetical and it's all dream stuff now, because you know what I mean, I think the Huns have used Scotland's luck for another 10, 15 years. If we can get to the final and win the final, then that means next season, the season after, we're straight into the Champions League group stages and not having to worry about qualifiers, because I'm not too sure. I think this is the last year that we qualifiers we don't need their qualifier. I'm sure the season after we do. I don't know if I might be talking crap there, but I'm sure that's the case.
Gav, what you saying to Europa League winner or last 8 Champions League?
Europa League winner, yeah.
3-1, Paddy.
But I don't think you can't.
I would never ever turn my nose up at winning a European trophy. Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is, my whole point is, you're still aiming to do better in the second tier.
No, Paddy, but I agree with what you're saying. Aim high, achieve high. Do you know what I mean? So if we're aiming to do that, and then that's what we end up doing. See the season that we go to Seville, we get knocked out. We get knocked out the qualifiers after Ball, I'm sure it was.
It was, right? I was there.
And then look how that season finished. You know what I mean?
No, I know, but
Aye.
We'll put it this way, right? See before we went to that game, see before we played that game, see if somebody was to say to you, would you be happy getting beat tonight? You'd be like, no, what the fuck? Because you want to win.
No, look,
Aye, nobody's
no.
going to go into like the last game. See the last game of the group stage. We played Leipzig in a draw, took us second place and through into the last 16. We're already guaranteed third. Not one person, not one Celtic support in the world is going to go, fuck, I hope we get better tonight so we drop into Europa. That nobody's saying that's what we want. Of course.
No, I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm saying. See, for you to get to the Europa and win the hypothetically win the Europa League, you're having to getting beat.
Aye.
That's what I'm saying.
We are flogging a dead horse, man.
You're wanting to win the Europa League, but you've got to get beat in the Champions League to get to that.
No, well, Pat, I think the distinction here is that James and Dazza, they're talking about hypothetically, what would you prefer? Whereas you're talking about realism. You aim for the stars. Now, you can't navigate a pathway to the Europa League. You know what I mean? You're only going to do that by some element of failure along the way, by dropping down out the Champions League. But you're talking about realism, and they're talking about hypothetically. They're never going to plant a pathway to the Europa League. They're just talking about what would you rather celebrate. What would you rather celebrate at the end of the day?
Listen, I 100% get it. I would love nothing more than to win. I would love to win the Europa League, of course. Absolutely, I'd love to win the Conference League. But again, my whole mindset, and again, I'm no fucking dissing you, I'm no disagreeing with anything, but my personal mindset is, if we were to win the Europa League, you're still a failure in the Champions League, which is the tier above it. It's the top tier. Even the Seville year, as absolutely brilliant as that was, like, we were still a failure in the Champions League. We never even go to the Champions League.
Your language is infuriating me, Paddy.
I'm just
your words are fucking. Your words make me count to 10.
that must mean that you know that I'm right. Then that's what it is.
It doesn't. It just means I'm not ready to fucking grab my head. If people in a pub and the Paddy.
Listen, I mean, if you are happy to be second best, then I'm all for it.
No, in fairness, Paddy, everybody does say that, didn't they? Talk about how shite Seville was and how we should have bet Ball that night and all that. So I can see where you're coming from.
Listen. I'll tell you right now. I was in Ball for that game, and I was fucking gutted, absolutely gutted, because the Champions League has always been the pinnacle of European competition. There's no better than fucking watching your players stand out in the park before the fucking game kicks off and listening to that big, handsome fucking bastard, whoever it is, that's singing that operatic tune. But listen, Seville was fucking magic. It was one of the most special times in our club's history. But Champions League's what it is, mate.
Now, for a wee change of pace, if you will forgive me for that, I was just going to do the On This Day feature. And then after that, we can move on to Baller and Bobag of the Week. So
don't say it's about.
Can I put Paddy down his ball bag?
You may do as you please. Listen. If I was to identify as a ball bag, you would need to call me a ball bag. By the way, listen, yeah, talk about that. Sorry, Gav, I know you're desperate to go with the ball bag stuff, right? But see, all this identifying stuff, right? I just need a wee bit of advice here for your guys, for you guys and the guys in the comments. Somebody actually stole my blue bin. So somebody stole my blue bin last week. Right, see my blue recycling bin. Somebody stole it. Do you think I would get away with writing on my? I hardly use the brown bin, right? Do you think I'd get away with writing on the brown bin that I identify as a blue bin, and they would love to collect it?
Well, your bin man are very narrow-minded if they don't. That's what I'll say.
100% agree with you. I think I've got cause to sue.
This is taking a rather fucking different turn.
Don't know what to say. That bad.
Gav, over to you.
So that's an order now.
On this day.
By the way,
the same.
I hope they fuck I don't identify as Frank Brennan.
Paddy, shut the fuck up.
Sorry.
Aye. 2nd of May, 1997. Tommy Burns dismissed as Celtic manager. I'll just let you know of a wee transcript from this. Tommy Burns' final season, it was his last chance, but this time he was better prepared. A strong squad was assembled with the arrival of Di Canio and Cadet, and for the first time in a long time, confidence was high that Celtic would win the league. A good team played some great football, and there were many moments of joyful skill by the players, which allowed Tommy Burns to allow the team to play the game as he liked to see it. Sadly, this wasn't enough. Despite amassing an incredible number of points, Celtic still lost the league to Rangers. Tommy Burns stated that Andy Gorham's performances for Rangers and their goal was the reason for this. But that's deflecting attention from the real truth. Celtic may have been an exciting attacking team, but a hell of a nightmare in defence to watch, and blew too many easy points away with some bad defensive decision, both in tactics and in personnel. It was the end of the road for this side, and no matter how much everybody respected him, it was the end for Tommy Burns as manager. Progress was not maintained, and towards the end of a disappointing third season at the helm, especially in regards to results against Rangers, he was offered another position at the club in charge of youth development, an effective demotion, which he declined. He resigned accordingly on the 2nd of May 1997, and despite the appointments of both Di Canio and Cadet, who left Celtic acrimoniously, they spoke very highly of Tommy Burns, venting their ire upon Fergus McCann instead. And there was nobody who had a bad word personally to say about Tommy Burns as manager, despite the disappointments of the past few seasons. It just wasn't to be. Now, my memory as a child, I thought Tommy Burns was an absolute hero, and I thought it was the worst decision ever to get rid of him. But Fergus McCann was vindicted by getting in Wim Janssen, and of course, we stopped the 10 at that moment. Dazza, what was your memories of that? Were you angry at Fergus McCann, or did you see the writing on the wall?
Right, so at that, when he gets sacked, I would have been 15, maybe 15, 16. Because then when we won it, we won it just before I turned 18. So, in hindsight, but then that's back in the day when you've when you've got the media. Like you're reading the media and you sort of, and I don't, this is going to sound terrible, but and especially at my age, you know what I mean, the media is doing all the thinking for you. They're planting all the seeds now, at least in this modern day and age. You know, like you've got so many different forms of media, like fans media, social media, where you can go and make up your own proper mind. And then like look into things properly. So when Tommy Burns went, I was gutted because that team was brilliant. That team was, and I think it was like the too many draws that killed us that season. So it was a draws over anything. I was gutted, but then when I think back, like there was no place for sentiment. Do you know what I mean? There was a job to be done, and by all intents and purposes, the job was done. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was good to see. It was then good to see. Obviously, Tommy Burns then went down to Reading. It was Reading, wasn't it? He went down to Reading, and then he come back up, and then obviously with Gordon Strachan, and then further, if it needed further, cemented these players into the Celtic hearts. Do you know what I mean? So, at the time, it wasn't good to see. In reflection, it was the right thing to happen. And I tell you what, that team is probably the greatest team never to win the league. Do you know what I mean? It was, and sorry, just before somebody else takes the reins a wee bit, it was Archie McPherson that described this, and I always remember this. He goes, "But like a Lamborghini going forward, but a ladder at the back," and it was true. Do you know what I mean?
Well summed up. Any further comments for yourself, Paddy or James, before we move on to ball bag and baller of the week?
I'm just going to echo what Daz about said there. Obviously, being a Carlton boy myself, I think the entire neighbourhood was ready for fucking lynching the boardroom at Celtic Park. But at the time, you were disgusted, but looking back in hindsight, just exactly what you said, mate, it was probably the right call. Like even at that, when Big Wim came in, like if Tommy Burns was still there, you'd have never had Henrik Larsson. No, I
No.
mean, these
And that's-
things. I'm a big believer that what's going to happen is supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
Just to sort of go off a wee tangent there, just to sort of highlight what you just said there. For every kick in the balls that we've had, there's always been something that, like, for example, you say if we don't get rid of them, then when we answer this, when we don't get Henrik Larsson, and well, Henrik Larsson is for many the greatest ever Celtic player. You know what I mean? I know Jimmy Johnson is the greatest ever Celtic player. Like if Tom Rogic doesn't miss the penalty, we don't get Brendan Rodgers. Not because that's like then. So it was like a lot of things. Just a wee examples, a wee boots in the balls at the time, and end up turning out to be godsends.
And if Neil Lennon had won the team, we would never have got Andrew.
No.
Mm-hmm. Aye, in that season, of course.
If Celtic could bet Bal, we would have never had Seville.
Oh.
Aye, yeah.
And we would say Tommy's 95-96 season was like Jimmy White in the World Snooker Championships. Should have won one, but couldn't get it done. Glorious failure. Not something that we're unfamiliar with. Gentlemen, baller of the week, ball bag of the week. Can anyone top Tinkerbell, the water boy, the man that is Todd Cantwell, for ball bag of the week?
What about for just being called Todd?
What? Todd Umptious?
Who?
Don't know.
It's got to be him, done it. Have you ever seen any misplaced confidence than that, honestly? I think there was one point in the game that Maida, near the end, kind of bumps him off the ball shoulder to shoulder. Strong gust of wind would take him away.
You see, I don't want to hear that clown it because I don't want to give him any sort of recognition, whether it be ball bag. Michael Beale. Raskin is probably, you know what I mean, for his media comments. You know what I mean? That for every Hun game coming up, they have really, really done their team talk for us. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Raskin. Aye. Beale. In fact, fuck it. Ball bags. Can I put an apostrophe S on it?
Go for it.
The full Rangers team.
Yeah. I love the fact that we've beat them so often this season that other fans are turning on them. Where once they were heroes, now they're villains. You know, nobody's getting any credibility. Who would you nominate then, Paddy? Starting with yourself for baller.
Baller? I'm going to give it to Maida.
No, I need to change my answer.
Sorry.
That's all right. You got there first. He asked you first.
Feel free to copy me if you want.
Who would you then go for, Dazza?
Oh, it was Maida. But I'm going to give it to Jota then. So for the other half of that, for ghosting in and not mean the header.
I'll give it to Moy. I thought Moy was a bit unsung. I know he only played the last kind of 20 minutes, but I thought he was really good when he came on. So I'll give it to him, especially off the back of the last few weeks where he's been hopeless. So hopefully that's him back to form.
What about you?
I will go for Starfelt. Starfelt for me. There was times during the game when I was quite one of the front rows in the East Stand, and in the second half, when we were knocking it back from Cameron Carter-Vickers to Starfelt to the fullbacks and then going back again, it was like I was so far away that you couldn't appreciate exactly what was happening on TV, and it's almost like watching a trapezium act where you think they're going to fall, or e.g. they're going to give the ball away, but they don't. They're still in control because they're that well versed. It's like muscle memory for them. And as much as your heart is in your mouth, sometimes watching them pass out for the back, they know what they're doing. And it's awkward sometimes, is what Starfelt is. You know, a right-footed player playing as a left-sided centre-back. The guy has been a colossus for us. I know that a lot of people will give the plaudits to Cameron Carter-Vickers, who get man of the match, but Starfelt is just as worthy. He was a monster every time the ball came near us in defence. He's fantastic, and I'm happy that we've got him.
See the boy that just put up a few comments ago, CCV and Cantwell. That's probably the textbook answer. Not mean to the questions. That one, Alan Woods. That's probably the textbook answer if we're all being honest. But again, we're all just putting ourselves in a bit. With different versions here.
See for Sundays, no, it seems to have went under the radar a wee bit. I think, see the Lundstrom tackle right at the start. That's a red cared all day. See, was it the last couple of weeks, the guy for Hibs, is it Jago, and then Andrew Shinnie, Graham Shinnie, one of them, whoever it is that plays with Aberdeen, and they get sent off. It's pretty much the exact same tackle, and that's way VR kind of intervening and getting a red card, but it wasn't even a yellow card because it was in the first 5 minutes of a Celtic Rangers game.
So Don Robertson was probably happy that Celtic won because see all the decisions. Now, so basically what Don Robertson done was he took himself out of every big decision that had to be made. He shat it. He didn't want to have any sort of controversy. Getting into Monday's papers, Tuesday's phone-ins, Wednesdays, whatever. He didn't want any controversy. So therefore, he let everything slide. Do you know what I mean? And they Huns just set out to kick the absolute 7 colours out us.
Here's a question for you, Dasbo. Do you think Don Robertson made a cunt of it by not giving Celtic a free kick?
It wasn't a free kick, but I don't think.
It was.
I think it's as much a free kick as you'll ever see, man. But see when you see the angle behind the goal, right? Now that Kent starts running up the park and assuming somebody's going to get it, the referee does the same thing. And see when the ball goes in the net, his shoulder's slumping all right. You can see him. It's only one angle. I don't know if it's a unique angle, but you can actually see like, oh fuck, it's fucking bizarre, man.
And then Cantwell's up saying, how come you never gave them a free kick?
By the way, I'm going to bring this comment up for Merrill Wyatt. I believe that's probably more suited to being on a Rangers fucking podcast. He's a fucking hero here.
Aye, Merrill, what are you thinking, buddy?
I know, mate.
he should be in your baller of the week with that one.
I think we'd all be agreed that Barisic should have been sent off. He had the handball, he had the dive, neither of which were yellow carded.
I would have given him a straight red for that dive.
I know you've probably done the podcast, but after a game like that, there is no way that I'm thinking I'm going to sit and talk to you. You know what I mean? I'm heading for pubs. But I'll tell you what, Greg Taylor picking up Barisic with a scuff in the neck is absolutely one of the most. That and the wee ball boy no shaking the Huns. They are the two unsung heroes of that semi-final.
Aye, that Barisic dive is up there with one of the worst I've ever seen. The other one that always sticks in my mind was Gerardino for AC Milan. I can't mind if it was the last 16 or no, but he genuinely runs about 10 yards and then falls out. I'm sure it's Boric, so it's like
last 16,
aye. They run about 10 yards before he gets down, but that's right up there.
I was there. I was embarrassing.
That always gets brought up, see, on like kind of montages of the worst ever dives in football. He's always right up there.
That was my favourite season ever following Celtic because it was I went to Man United, Benfica, AC Milan and Copenhagen, and I'd done all the trips. I felt like Paul the Tim that year.
I mean that Copenhagen game, the away game, we ended up listening to it on a fucking radio out a motor because it was a power cut. I was at my dad's house at the time and there was a power cut in a full block, so we ended up having to get down to somebody's motor and sticking it on the radio.
I was I don't know if you could have found the BBC Scotland archives, right? We just got to the hotel, put our bags down, and I was walking across a bridge, and I think I stopped to tie my shoelaces, and two of the boys are like, "That's Chick Young," and I've looked up, I've just jumped to his seat, I've slapped his seat, I'm like, hey, they done the Jonathan Watson for tune, and he just was not impressed. But then on that day, obviously the Port of Scotland come on at night. My brother texted me, goes, "I've just seen you on the telly with a cheeser that you can couldn't escape with a sledgehammer." I'd obviously walked past the camera with a big smile on my face.
There's a few pundits you like to see with a sledgehammer, don't you?
Yeah, let me ask you this question.
I don't.
The prospect of a
condone
treble,
violence.
boys, and it's very, very likely, of course. Not many people have done it. Ange is very close to be putting in himself in the same circle as people like Jock Stein, Martin O'Neill, Brendan Rodgers, Neil Lennon, etc. Is he a legend if he does that? Or do we need to
He's a
kind of
legend.
temper these labels?
He's a legend before he does it.
He's got to win the Champions League for me.
Nah, he's going to win the Europa.
Nah. Nah, I think so. If he does it, aye. You know what I mean? A whole fair people, so he's got to be.
Does that mean that Brendan Rodgers is a legend then?
Brendan Rodgers is a legend, whether we like it or no. For what he left, the way he left has left a sour taste. Regardless of that, he is a legend, and I don't care what anybody says. The invincible treble, the double treble. I mean, the treble. Obviously, Neil Lennon finished the treble, but no, for what Brendan Rodgers done at Celtic, you know what I mean? It put us in a different stratosphere. No, so because Ronnie Deila season was just going through the motions, and a lot of people, and I mind even going to the games, a lot of people are right, we're leaving early to go to the pub. You know what I mean? Under Brendan Rodgers, nobody left early. Man City, you know what I mean? The two Man City games. No, Brendan Rodgers, whether we like it or not, is a legend.
Well,
Not
talk
me.
about Ronnie Deila. It would be very, very hard to be excited to see fucking Colin Kazim Richards running about with a wig on. You know what I mean?
It's mad to think that's just no even not long ago, isn't it? Kazim Richards and Carrot Cole up front.
I know.
Darryl Murphy.
Aye, there's been a few. Fucking Skepovic, mind him, I know.
Oh.
I thought that he was meant to be a decent player.
Skepovic was that another one that plays for the team Shakhtar Donetsk?
No, that was fucking the wee.
Yeah,
Somebody
that's-
called Seferovic.
That's Stepanovic or something, isn't it?
Shved.
Well, the-
All right, no, I thought you meant to play with Is that Marian
I played for
Shved?
Celtic.
Oh, Shved,
Oh,
aye.
right, so it is. So it is. Aye. These Eastern Bloc players are.
Fuck, it's 3-0 to Arsenal. Chelsea must be really bad if even Arsenal can beat them.
You weren't expecting Frank Lampard to win it, were you?
I was going to go and watch this game.
I was going to put money on Chelsea then.
So was I.
I only put a wee interest bet on the night because I was going to just sit down with a few beers and watch the football, but it's looking good.
Nah, it looks good though. Can't say.
Right, boys.
Right.
Will we wrap it up for this evening? An hour and a half. That's good going. We've earned our call for this evening. And we can switch off and go watch Chelsea get pumped. That is Chelsea that Arsenal are playing.
I'll phone you after this and we'll talk about some of your points.
Yeah. I was going to say my phone's ran out of battery, but Bastard's just done doing.
I thought you were going to say you'd meet him in a car park.
I'll probably meet you outside. I'll meet you in Dundee on Friday. I can't do my
I know, man. I know. Who goes to work on Friday? Do you know what I mean?
What?
Who goes to work on Friday?
Africa.
But no, I mean, no, I'm half all week. I start on Friday.
Aye, we all are.
Right. No, listen, boys, absolutely. Cheers for having us on again.
Pleasure,
Loved
mate.
it. There's nothing better than I loving sculling pints and talking shite about Celtic. So
Oh, you can do those two things very, very well.
I do, mate. Yes, I do.
Right, anyway, viewers, thanks very, very much for tuning in. Hope you're all doing well. I think the Unrestricted View, as somebody already said, check out the Unrestricted View podcast. They've got Paul Hartley later on tonight as their guest. So I'm sure that'll be interesting. Anyway, thanks very much. Ian McIntosh, checked out the band you recommended, Gavin. Was that Rival Sons? Aye. Thanks, mate. Thanks. Either that or Blue Oyster Cult, one of the two. Excellent,
We
mate.
turn into
Neymar and the Police Academy.
Are we turning to Celtic minded here?
I know.
No,
I
a
know.
Celtic
We'll
state,
go
Celtic,
back.
a Celtic state of mind. No, that's what
We'll
they
talk
do.
about the
Music
Happy
says.
Mondays. Oasis Happy Mondays, then the Smiths, that Manchester scene back then. Anyway, right. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll catch you this weekend after we
For a
pump Hearts
title
and win the league. Title party, that's it. That's what it's built for. Title party Sunday afternoon after we beat Hearts.
By the
You
way,
can
it'll
stick
be...
your coronation up.
No. It'll be the real coronation of the real king, King Ange.
King Ange. Aye. Anyway, thanks very much. Good night. God bless. Catch you later.